they move the ball so brilliantly. And Barry, I was trying to work out when I was watching that second half, does it just look great when Brazil play intricate passing, like look better because it's in a Brazil kit and it says Brazil, and that's what you expect from Brazil. Like, am I conditioned to want them to play lovely football? So when they do it, even sort of in an okay way, I think, well, that's amazing because it's Brazil. Or were they actually really good?
I suppose it could be both. I'm not sure what way you're conditioned, Max. I know you quite well, but not that intimately. Um, yeah, they were hugely impressive, but it took them an hour to get going and hit their stride, I think. But when they did, there was only going to be one winner, and they pretty much won at a canter in the end. Milinkovic Savic in goals for Serbia. He made some good saves, and I would not read too much into this performance. I thought Serbia played quite well in the first half. Like, it was a good defensive effort from them, but they didn't bring a huge amount to the party.
And you mentioned it, Jonathan, when they bring on their bench is ludicrous. We quite look at the England bench and think actually there's some really good attacking talent. But when you're bringing on like Rodrigo and then Jesus and Anthony, did Martinelli come off the bench as well? Yeah, it's sort of a staggering array of attacking talent.
They do have a plethora of fine talents. I do think, having obviously now we've seen all the teams, I do think England can match them in terms of depth of squad, bench wise. They're the only other team who sort of, when they brought players off the bench, you still didn't seem to have any sort of dip in quality, I thought. Maybe Spain as well, but maybe a little bit less experienced, the players they brought on. Younger players, obviously the left back, for example. But I thought they just didn't lose any kind of rhythm or there was no dip in tempo when the likes of Jesus and Martinelli and Rodrigo came on. And there's a bit of maybe an injury worry for Neymar. He went off under a bit of a cloud. I don't know if that's something that might be a problem, but they didn't. They've got so many attacking options, and it was quite interesting to see Richarlison do so well because it seemed that although he is that focal point for them, now he's kind of announced it and that will be his place. So there's a lot of competition for the either side of him because Rafinha I didn't think was incredible. But he's maybe the one that I thought maybe didn't perform as well as maybe the others, but he's still maybe on that right side preferred. So yeah, they've just got so many options. It's crazy, really. I really like Rodrigo. I struggle to see how he doesn't get in this team, but obviously when you see how well they perform, maybe it explains why.
In the build up to this tournament, a lot of talk is about Neymar, Wilson, and a bit like Messi, right? This is for his legacy is for Brazil to win. It's really important. And we had lots of questions about him, basically asking if he's any good or not. Jamie said Neymar is a whisker away from being Brazil's all-time top goal scorer. He's also won 25 plus trophies, including the Champions League. How good of a talent do the panel think he is? Where does he rank in the pantheon of forwards? Did he ever reach his potential? Is the hype justified?
I mean, he's a extraordinarily gifted player. So there's a thing before the World Cup when they had Brazil players in a stadium and they had a drone going higher and higher and higher above the halfway line and dropping a ball. And it got, I think, with him, it was 35 metres. And they dropped the ball. And you saw the other players just missing it completely, their first touch spooning it 40 yards away. And I think Richarlison, sort of looking very awkward, did control it. Neymar just sort of flicks it up and starts to keep it up. So it's absolutely extraordinary. See, he's a phenomenally gifted player. But there's always that question mark there, partly about his temperament. And that goes right back to when he was very young. And I saw him first time I saw him was in 2011 at the Copa America when he really got pretty badly bullied by a really old, slow fullback for Paraguay.
I like how you slowed down while saying it as well. Do you talk at the pace of the player that you were discussing? Goodness, when you start talking about Dennis Rommedahl, you'll be going incredibly fast.
Well, I saw Dennis Rommedahl, so I had to against RBC Riesendahl once while playing for PSV. That was me speaking quickly. I don't know. Did that work?
Not quite.
And he got very frustrated then, and sort of, I think he's never quite shaken that off. And then just as he seemed to be getting to his peak at Barcelona, and that forward line with him and Messi and Suarez worked so well together, they clearly got on really well together. And then, of course, he goes to PSG. And the problem with going to PSG is that he's actually only being judged on 2 or 3 games a season because nobody cares what you do in France. It's a very easy level for him. And Yeah, his idea of going there to get out of Messi's shadow to win the Ballon d'Or, well, actually, it was the complete reverse of that, because you don't win the Ballon d'Or by beating Nantes and Metz and people. You win the Ballon d'Or by beating Real Madrid. And the fact they haven't won the Champions League, for which he has to, he's obviously not the only reason, but as their record signing, as the highest profile player in that squad, at least until pretty recently when maybe Mbappe's overtaken him, he has to take responsibility for that. And I don't think his attitude there has particularly helped. The stories about having his 3-day birthday party and getting Emery to come and cut the cake and sort of dashing back to Rio for Carnival and things. None of that has helped him be the best footballer that he could be.
Makes it sound must be very tired to dash back to Carnival. This sounds an incredibly noisy thing to dash back for. Martin Keown was keen to point out that Brazil looked, just as good, if not better, when Neymar went off. Lars tweeted us, does Martin Keown feel joy, Barry? It's hard. I mean, you don't know how I'm conditioned. You don't know how Martin Keown's conditioned.
Yeah, I met Martin Keown once and had a quite long conversation with him about his family back in Galway and about Kenny Sanson, his former teammate. It wasn't particularly joyous experience, but he seemed a nice enough guy to me. Very intense. He fixes you with his laser-like stare, and he could be asking you a question as innocuous as, how did you get here? And you sort of quaking in your boots. I quite like him as a pundit, actually. He gets stick. I see John Hartson's been getting stick as well for his co-coms. I think totally unjustified. I'm a big fan of Johnny Hartson's. But I'm not sure how that comment he made about Brazil being just as good when Neymar went off can be construed as him being joyless by Lars.
I mean, Brazil did create loads of chances in the last 10, 15 minutes, but Serbia clearly given up. They were fighting for a point, and once they're 2-0 down, we're not going to get a point. So I just don't. I mean, maybe they are better without Neymar. I think that is entirely possible. I just don't think that game proved it, and Neymar played pretty well when he was on.
Stefan says, could one of you explain WTAF is going on with Alisson's facial hair? I can't remember who yesterday. Courtois is looking more and more like the policeman from Hello, but so is Alisson. I mean, I don't know if that's the greatest goalkeepers in the world just try and look like the policeman from Hello, or they've all been invited to a goalkeepers union party, which happens to be policeman from Hello fancy dress. I mean, if it is, I'm all for it.